Hey, today I'll be doing a video on factoring when a is greater than 1. So using the formula ax squared plus bx plus c, we have been finding the factors of c that add up to our b term. This only works when a is equal to 1, so now we're going to try some problems where a is greater than 1. So when a is greater than 1, we must first multiply our a term and our c term to find the factors of that number that add up to be b. So our a term in this case is 2, and our c term is 10. So we're actually going to do 2 times 10 and get 20. So we're going to do the factors of 20 that will add up to give us our b term of 9. I've already listed the factors of 20 on the PowerPoint here. We just need to figure out which two factors we want to use that will give us 9. If I do 1 and 20, that just gives me 21. If I do 2 plus 10, that gives me 12. But if I do 4 plus 5, that will give me 9. So the factors I'm using are x plus 4 and x plus 5. Because a is greater than 1, we actually do not stop here. We have to keep going. We will divide one of these numbers by our a term and then multiply the opposite x by the a term. So I have the choice of dividing either 4 by 2, because 2 is my a term. I'm going to divide one number by my a term. So I can divide 4 by 2, or I can divide 5 by 2. Because 4 actually ends up being a whole number, I'm going to divide 4 by 2. And that means I'm going to multiply my opposite x, which is the x that's with the 5, by 2. So I'm going to multiply that x by 2. When I do that, I'm left with x plus 4 over 2 is 2. And then 2 times x is 2x plus 5. So these are the factors that I've gotten, and I want to check to make sure they're correct. I'll check this by multiplying them back together. So I have x plus 2 and 2x plus 5. X times 2x gives me 2x squared. X times 5 is 5x. 2 times 2x is 4x. And 2 times 5 is 10. I want to combine my like terms here. And I'll have 2x squared plus 9x plus 10. If you look, this is my original equation. That way I know my factors here, the x plus 2 and 2x plus 5, they are correct. Remember to always check your answer to make sure your factors are right. Now, if you feel like you didn't really understand that lesson, I want you to pause the video now, go back and watch it again, because on the next slide, you'll be answering a question and trying one for yourself. So if that didn't really make much sense to you, I want you to pause now and go back and watch it. Alright, now you guys try one. Factor 3x squared minus 13x minus 10. Alright, our first step when we do this is we want to multiply our a and c term. So we have 3 times negative 10. So our a times c term, we get negative 30. So we want to do the factors of 30. I'll do those over here, so we can add them up to get our b term. Our factors of 30 are 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, 4 isn't 1, 4 doesn't go into 30, but 5 does. We have 5 times 6. We've reached the next number, so we're done. We want to pick two of these factors that when added together will give us, we are looking for negative 13 in this case. So we want two factors that when added together will give us negative 13. Remember, one of these factors has to be negative because our 30 is negative. So I could have 1 and 30, that won't give me negative 13. 2 and 15, that could give me 13. 3 and 10, That one looks like it could give you 13 because 3 plus 10 is 13, but actually because one of them has to be negative, that cannot give me 13. And 5 and 6, one of them has to be negative, that can't give me 13 either. So I know I'm using 2 and 15, I just have to figure out which one will give me negative 13. If I make the 15 negative and the 2 positive, that gives me negative 13. So I know I'm using negative 15 and positive 2 as my factors. So I will write them as x minus 15 and x plus 2. Now remember, we're working with a greater than 1, so that is not our final answer. If you were to check it right now, it would not work, okay? Well, first of all, it wouldn't work because you have an x times an x, and that does not give you 3x squared. So we know we have to keep going. We are dividing one number by our a term and multiplying the opposite x by the a term. So my a term in this case is 3. So I can either divide 15 by 3 or 2 by 3. I'm going to pick 15 because 3 goes into that evenly. If I do 2 over 3, that gives me a fraction. I don't really want to deal with fractions. So I'm going to divide 15 by 3 and multiply that x by 3, the opposite x by 3. When I do that, I'm left with x minus 5. 15 over 3 is 5. And then 3 times x is 3x plus 2. So these are the factors that I want to check to see if they're correct. If I multiply those again, I have x minus 5 and 3x plus 2 that I want to check. X times 3x gives me 3x squared. X times 2 gives me 2x. Negative 5 times 3x gives me negative 15x. And negative 5 times 2 is negative 10. Once I combine my like terms, I get 3x squared. 2x minus 15x is negative 13x minus 10. Now if you look back, you will see that it was our original equation, which means that my factors here of x minus 5 and 3x plus 2, these factors are correct. We have the correct answer. Now we're going to try another. First we want to factor out 10x squared plus 15x minus 45. So we want to pull out the GCF here. To find our GCF, we can see what they all have in common. We have 10, 15, and 45. We know that 5 can go into all of these, so our GCF is 5. When I pull 5 out of 10x squared, I'm left with 2x squared. When I pull 5 out of 15x, I'm left with 3x. And when I pull 5 out of negative 45, I'm left with negative 9. So I want to multiply my a term and my c term in order to see what number I'm trying to factor. My a term in this case is 2, and my c term is negative 9. So 2 times negative 9 gives me negative 18. I have the factors of 18 already listed over here. So we just need to find 2 that end up being positive 3. Remember, one of them is negative, but I want them to add up to be a positive 3. So if I do 1 and 18, that won't give me a positive 3. 2 and 9, that cannot give me a positive 3. 3 and 6 can, though, as long as I have a positive 6 plus a negative 3. That gives me a positive 3. So I know I'm dealing with 6 and 3. 6 and negative 3. If I rewrite that, have 5 first. Remember, you have a number over here outside your parentheses. Do not forget about your GCF. It's still included. X plus 6, x minus 3. Okay. I want to now divide one of these, one by my a term, and multiply the other x by the a term. So my a term in this case is 2, so I can do 6 over 2 or 3 over 2. I'm going to choose 6 because it ends up being a whole number, which means I'm going to multiply this x by 2. When I rewrite it, I'm left with 5x plus 3, 6 over 2 is 3, times 2x minus 3. These are the answers I want to check to see if they're correct. So I'm going to work them over here, check my answer. I have 5x plus 3 and 2x minus 3. First I'm going to distribute this 5 to go ahead and get rid of that. If I distribute the 5 into the x, I get 5x, and the 5 into the 3, I get 15. And I'll just leave this one. You only have to distribute into 1. Okay. So once I multiply this out, I have 5x times 2x gives me 10x squared. 5x times negative 3 gives me negative 15x. 15 times 2x gives me positive 30x. And 15 times negative 3 gives me a negative 45. I want to combine my like terms here. And I'm left with 10x squared plus 15x minus 45. If you refer back to our original problem, that is indeed correct. So these factors here, 5 times x plus 3 times 2x minus 3, they are correct. Now you try one. Try negative 12x squared plus 30x plus 72. Okay, when I'm solving this, I first want to pull out a GCF. If you look really close to these numbers, you can see that they all have 6 in common. So because my a term here is negative, I'm actually going to pull out a negative 6. So my GCF, I'm going to say is negative 6. When I pull a negative 6 out, negative 6 from 12x squared gives me a 2x squared. Negative 6 from negative 30x is positive 5x. And negative 6 from 72 is negative 12. So this is the expression I'll be working with. I want to multiply my a term and my c term. When I do that, I have 2 times negative 12 gives me negative 24. So I want to find the factors of 24. I have 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6. 5 is the only number left for me to check before I repeat, and 5 doesn't go into 24. I want to pick 2 of these that will give me a positive 5. So if I'm looking for a positive 5, 24 and 1, that won't do it. 12 and 2, no. Remember, 1 has to be negative because I have a negative 24. 8 and 3, that could give me a positive 5. 4 and 6, no, that couldn't give me a positive 5. 1 has to be negative. So I know I'm working with 8 and 3. If I want a positive 5, I'm actually going to have positive 8 plus a negative 3 gives me a positive 5. So if let's rewrite, don't forget my GCF. I have negative 6 x plus 8 times x minus 3. Remember, I'm not done yet. I have to divide by my a and multiply the opposite x by the a. My a in this case is 2. So I can do 8 over 2 or 3 over 2. I'm going to do the 8, so it turns out to be a whole number, and multiply this x by 2. When I do that, I am left with negative 6 x plus 4, 8 over 2 is 4, times 2x minus 3. Now I want to check this to make sure that it is indeed correct. So I have negative 6 x plus 4, 2x minus 3. When I multiply this, I'm going to do negative 6 times x, negative 6x, negative 6 times 4 is negative 24, 2x minus 3. When I multiply these, I get the negative 12x squared, positive 18x, negative 48x, and positive 72. I have to combine like terms. When I do that, I do actually end up with the original equation.